Hello, class. Welcome to week 14, day 1. We're going to have a pretty easy lesson here today. So, bear with me and I'll get off to Thanksgiving. Okay, so this one's on price discrimination, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly, where monopolistic competition and oligopoly are alternative market structures. So, our motivation for this is, in our last lecture, we saw that monopolies cause deadweight loss. And this is a problem for society because consumers are less well off, and society as a whole is less well off as producers are less well off. So this is a problem as shown by this figure here. And so far we've assumed that prices charged to each person are the same, but today we're going to relax that and allow businesses to price discriminate. And so these two facts about monopoly deadweight loss and uniform pricing are surprisingly connected. And so you've all seen price discrimination before, but I don't know if you've seen it called that. So here are a couple examples. So price discrimination is when you charge different prices to different individuals based on their characteristics. And so one of those examples is a ladies' night, where ladies are getting half-priced drinks, and so you know that women are paying less than men who are paying full price at ladies' nights. And then another example is college financial aid distribution. And so you can see WVU's kind of like estimated scholarship amounts by high school GPA and entry test score like ACT or SAT on the x-axis, where gold is like the most valuable. And so you can see that you're paying the amount based on what your GPA and ACT or SAT is combined. And so they're discriminating you based on your academic merit. And so perfect price discrimination, perfect now, is, well, let me just talk more about regular. Charge customers different prices based on their characteristics. Caveat, sometimes different prices can be warranted if different people are actually more costly. So the book's example was hotels charging higher prices to weddings because wedding guests steal mementos, and so maybe they are just actually more expensive. Take that as you will. And then perfect price discrimination is where it goes beyond price discrimination, and it means that the business is able to charge each customer their exact willingness to pay. And so they extract all the value out of selling that. And so basically what that means is, for everyone who's willing to pay $90, as shown by this demand curve right here, they charge all those people $90. And everyone who wants to pay $100, they charge everyone $100. And all the way down the demand curve until they meet their marginal cost curve. And then they stop because it's too expensive compared to how much they'd get. And so remember that this demand curve is just the representation of all the customers' willingness to pay. And this is the demand curve that the monopolist is facing because they're the only person in the market. And there are limits to perfect price discrimination. If you're wondering just like why don't businesses do it all the time if it's the best for them, one thing is different buyers have to value the product differently. And so if everyone values the product the same, then perfect price discrimination is not any different than just perfect competition. And then firms have to have market power, because if they don't have market power, then buyers can just avoid the markups from price discrimination and go to other sellers. And they have to be able to limit resales, because these would prevent high prices and for high transaction cost item services like fixing plumbing or moving a piano. Resale is implausibly expensive, and so it's likely that it's too hard to resell these things to prevent price discrimination. And then the big one I want to talk about, which I think is really interesting, is transactions costs, because it's just too difficult or costly to gather information on all your buyers to perfectly price discriminate. And this is what my example is over here. Target used their data, and they were able to figure out and predict when, based on the bundle of products that women were buying, whether or not they were pregnant. And so Target sent a coupon to a family's house and the daughter was pregnant, but the dad didn't know, but Target figured it out from what she was buying at Target, and it was unscented lotion and cotton balls, which goes with pregnancy. Target figured out like women in their second trimester were like likely to buy these things. And so dad wasn't very happy about that. And you can click the article here. I think it's really interesting, but I won't belabor the point for now. And so I want to point out, though, that computer technology has been enabling companies to discriminate to price discriminate more, because they can harvest more information, like the Target case shows you. And I was talking about perfect or first degree price discrimination, where you sell each unit at the exact willingness to pay for each customer. But there's other types of price discrimination as well, which you're probably familiar with. One is quantity discrimination, which is a second degree type of price discrimination, where you charge different prices for large and small amounts of purchases, like this sign right here, where you can get 10, 2 liters for $10. But if you buy one, it costs $2 per 2 liter. And so this is an example of second degree price discrimination. And some more types are like two-part tariffs, like a Costco membership, where you pay for the membership and then also for whatever units you buy. And then tie-in sales is called third degree price discrimination. But we're going to focus on first degree perfect price discrimination in this class. And so what's really interesting about perfect price discrimination is that, last class we showed you that there's this deadweight loss that comes from uniform pricing and optimal monopoly decision making. Well, a way to get rid of that deadweight loss is to allow monopolies to perfectly price discriminate. Then there's no loss to society, but it comes at the cost of losing all this consumer surplus that was present when monopolies were only charging this orange dot. But when they can charge exactly to each person, then they eat up all of the producer surplus, which it kind of depends on how much consumer surplus is lost in relation to the deadweight loss, whether it's good or not, which will depend on elasticities. And so that is kind of like monopoly perfect price discrimination. And we know that wouldn't work in perfect competition, but there's other intermediate market structures, such as monopolistic competition and oligopoly. And I want to briefly intro those here, so that when I bring them in during the last week, it's not completely foreign. And so perfect competition is the most competitive, monopoly is the least, and then these are in the middle. And these are the different demand curves by market structure. You can see, like, we have this perfectly elastic demand curve when there's perfect competition, and this downward sloping demand curve when there's monopoly, and there's this downward but not as steep sloping demand curve for monopolistic competitors. And what is a monopolistic competitor? It's just somebody who differentiates their product enough so that there's not enough close substitutes, that they're essentially a monopolist in their own very small product niche. And so this allows them to kind of behave like a little monopolist and kind of sustain long-run profits. And we don't like monopolies in general, but monopolistic competition gives us a lot of product variety, which is a benefit in and of itself. And so that's monopolistic competition. And then the last one is oligopoly, which is just slightly more than one firm in the market, several firms. So oligopoly is like a few. And because there's only a few firms in the market, it makes each firm's output and pricing decision really important relative to the other one. And so there's these strategic interactions. And we need different models to study these more attractively. And the simplest oligopoly is a duopoly, which is one more firm than a monopoly. There's two firms. And so in like an oligopoly, firms are trying to strategically interact with each other to keep prices high so that they can sustain economic profits, but they have an incentive to cheat on their partners because it'll make them some profit in the short run. Now, if there's lots of periods to that game, then it doesn't make as much sense to undercut your other firms in the oligopoly market's prices. And so these higher profits due to these price markups means that these firms can possibly earn long-run profits. They just have to enforce cooperation somehow. And so I'll talk more about that. But for now, I showed you the influence of market power on facilitating optimal price markups. We've seen how deadweight loss and price discrimination eliminates waste. Unfortunately, it has a drawback of eliminating all consumer surplus. So depends what you think on that one. And then I've introduced some different market structures, which future videos will more rigorously examine. And so thank you. That's all I got. Have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy being home. Be safe, and I will catch up with you in our final week.